a written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Good morning. I call this Board of Directors meeting to order and ask that you rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our October board meeting. I'm Kat Fimmel, the president of the 2023 RCSC Board of Directors. This is the regular meeting of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Board of Directors. It's audio and video recorded by the RCSC management and staff. Please be advised that there is no recording of this meeting by any individual. Please take out your cell phones and electronic devices and turn them to the silent mode. For our timekeeper for today will be Director Collins. Okay, now I'll introduce the management staff. Matthew D. Luzansky, our General Manager. Kevin McCurdy, our Director of Finance.
Good morning.
Mike Whitbrew, Director of Buildings and Infrastructure. Good morning. Chris Herring, Director of Operations. Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds. Mike Diermeyer, Director of Bowling. JoLynn Higgins, Communications and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. Beth Lucas, Sun City Visitor and Welcome Center and Marketing Manager. Marcia Johnson, the Corporate Executive Coordinator. And Teresa Sereno, who is up in the booth, our Director of Entertainment and Events. I would also like to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Doreen Rafferty, our audiovisual engineers. And also, as well as acknowledging the incredible staff here at Sundial that prepares this room for us. I want to take a moment to welcome all to welcome all of the members today and to recognize people who are members who are here for the first time. So if you're here for the first time, welcome. The first item of business is the roll call vote for the quorum. Secretary Totten.
Thank you, President Fimmel. Vice President McAdam.
Good morning.
Treasurer Fast.
Present.
Director Ruff.
Present.
Director Darbett. Director Nichols.
Good morning.
Director Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Director Collins.
Hello, everyone.
President Fimmel.
Good morning.
And I am the Secretary, Jean Totten, and I'm here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Vice President McAdam, could you take a moment to introduce our candidates for the 2024 board?
Yes, we actually have 6 candidates who are running for the 4 open spots on the RCSC board, and I'd like to ask you all to stand, please. So this is Connie Richtmeyer, Anita Borsky, Preston Keese, Ron Kupinski, Thank you. And Jim Ruff, sorry. Yes.
Jim Ruff. Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move to approval of the agenda. There has been a request to move, yes,
Madam President,
yes, ma'am,
if I may,
yes.
if I can find it, I would like to request of you and my fellow board members permission to tweak the recommendation portion of the agenda. Would it be possible to move the recommendation brought forth by Directors Fast and McAdam on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee to approve the 2024 operating and capital budget from the third item on the list of recommendations to the first? I am asking for this change to allow our Director of Finance, guru, Kevin McCurdy, plenty of time to promote his budget, answer our questions, and perhaps to comment on his vision for the next few years. Sitting in the Finance and Budget meetings throughout this summer and listening to these same topics aided me greatly in understanding the money part of RCSC, and perhaps will help you understand it as well. However, on that same subject, and because it was very confusing to me, I would like to hear, as he explained to me yesterday and once again this morning, how a budget that was already approved by its that may be already approved by its recommending committee can be accepted now, and then 2 recommendations later in this same meeting can possibly be voted upon with changes.
Are there any objections to this request? Hearing no objections, we will make the change. Are you, okay? All right, so finance will become the first item on the recommendations. Are there any other questions on the agenda? No, no other changes? Then the agenda will be accepted as revised. First up is the approval of the minutes. These are the minutes of the September 28th meeting. They were posted. Are there any comments, corrections? Vice President McCann.
So I'm sorry I didn't catch this sooner, but on the last paragraph of the minutes, the statement is made that, and that Treasurer Fast announced that the Strategic Alternatives Committee, or the SAC, has moved the October town hall meetings into November. I'm just curious about whether that's accurate or not. I'm not sure that it was the SAC that chose to do this. I think it might have been the Long Range Planning Committee.
Oh, yes, yes. The town halls are being run by the Long Range Planning Committee, and they decided that there wasn't enough information to present in October, so they moved those to November. So it's not the SAC.
Okay, so can we make that correction to the minutes then? Well, except that I'm not sure what the announcement actually was, but that needs simply to be corrected as a matter of record.
Marcia, could you make that correction? Got it.
Thank you.
Any other additions, deletions, corrections? Hearing none with that correction, the minutes will be approved. Next up is the treasurer's report.
Let me get that out. This is the treasurer's report for October 26th of 2023. The balance of unrestricted funds as of September 30th, 2023 was $18.8 million, which includes a $2.5 million cash reserve. Restricted funds include the Preservation and Improvement Fund, PIF, and the Capital Reserve Fund. As of September 30th, 2023, PIF had a balance of $31.2 million, and the Capital Reserve Fund had a balance of $5.7 million. The carry-forward balance, which is a component of the $18.8 million of unrestricted funds balance was $10 million as of September 30th, 2023. The corporation operated within its budget year-to-date 2023. The investment report, third quarter 2023. RCSC's investment policy, which is contained in Bylaws Article 13, is stringent in its requirements with the priority of investment objectives which are placed in this order: safety, liquidity, and yield. As of September 30th, 2023, $4,263,735 cost basis of the $2.5 million unrestricted cash reserve and other unrestricted funds had been invested in various FDIC-insured Treasury bills and corporate bonds. In 2023, these investments, along with the unrestricted money market account, have produced interest income of $77,097 with management fees of $7,008 for a net income on unrestricted fund investments of $70,089. At the end of September 2023, $4,557,814 of cost basis of the $5.6 million restricted capital reserve plus interest has been invested in various FDIC-insured Treasury bills, mutual funds, and corporate bonds. Year-to-date, these investments have produced interest income of $52,209 with management fees of $7,134 for a net income on restricted capital reserve investments of $45,075. At the end of the third quarter of 2023, $25,591,486 cost basis of the $31.2 million in the Restricted Preservation and Improvement Fund has been invested in various FDIC-insured Treasury bills, mutual funds, and corporate bonds. Year-to-date, these investments have produced interest of $182,646 with investment fees of $34,446 for a net income on restricted fund investments of $148,200, respectively submitted by John Fast, Treasurer.
Thank you. Are there any questions, additions, other comments with regard to the Treasurer's report? Director Ruff.
Director Fast, could you go through what the balances of the 18.8 million unrestricted funds are? 10 million of it's the carry forward, but in the other 8.8, I believe, as you said, has 2.5 million from the cash reserve, and the rest is this year's operating cash?
I believe that to be correct, Director Ralph.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that to be correct. As far as where the reserve is, it would not be in unrestricted funds.
Okay.
A reserve is by nature restricted.
So then we have 8.8 million of cash assets that are budget. That's way more than we're going to spend between now and December.
I would ask Kevin, yes?
I'm just trying to define this for not just
I'm just asking
but for
Kevin.
members. Yes.
Madam President, Director Ruff, if you look at the balance sheet, which is right behind the Treasurer's report in your binder, so the 18.8 is our cash and investments, which is a combination of what's in our Wells Fargo checking account and money market, and the operating reserve plus the money market of 2.9. The 2.9 and the 2.5 are in Charles Schwab in our investment account. The 13.3 is at Wells Fargo, and it's a combination of what's in our checking account and what's in our money market.
So how do we differentiate the funds in there I'm just asking what's our plan for the $8,845,000 outside of the carry forward?
So we're using the C word again, huh? Carry
Well,
forward.
I don't like it. How about unrestricted cash balance of
I like that one,
10 million?
unrestricted cash balance. So the 13.3, again, the unspent but budgeted capital projects, we always remove that from that $13.3 million balance to derive what is the unrestricted cash balance. And that's in our checking account. That's available for any kind of operating spending. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to go out tomorrow and spend $8 million of that, right? We have to stay within our budget. So although it is considered unrestricted from the point of view of it's not a board-designated reserve account, we still need to operate within our budget.
And if you were doing budgets for the out years, would we be able to use some of that 8 million towards capital projects?
Absolutely. Yep.
So how much?
And that's part of the budget for 2024 is to utilize a portion of that unrestricted cash towards the increase in our capital project budget.
Then how much unrestricted cash do we have for the next, currently to be used in the next 4 or 5 years?
10 million?
What about the other 8 million? What's
Well,
it
that's
for?
I mean, again, that's board designated reserve money. So you would have to free that up and
Gotcha.
say, you know, as a board, we have made the decision to allocate that operating reserve towards whatever it is you want to put it towards, which could include capital project spending.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I understand what I'm looking at. And more so for the members out here.
Sure.
You see those numbers and you're going, what are you doing? Okay, thank you very much.
Vice President McAdam, did you have a comment? No?
No, I guess it was just the statement was made that the 2.5 cash reserve is not part of the unrestricted funds, but thank you, Kevin, for clarifying that it indeed is.
Being no additional questions, the report will be filed for audit. Next is the management report. Are there any questions or comments on the management report?
Madam Chair.
Director Nowakowski.
Question is for Kevin. Looking at our assessment income, we are running low. Is this a common item we've had in previous years, or is that just this year?
Running low compared to budget? Yeah, that's really because primarily with the delay last year in approving the budget, we had to send out our January and February assessment invoices at the previous assessment level. And in the budget, I assumed that we were going to send out the January forward assessment bills at the increased 525 level. So 2 months went out at the 496 level because until the board had formally approved the budget, we couldn't send invoices out at that increased assessment level.
So we are not going to be able to recover that?
Correct.
That just.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Vice President McAdam.
So I have a number of questions here. So there, in the management report, there's a statement that we're in the middle of a TEG migration. This is our software program that should happen in November. And I'm curious about a couple of things. So one, is there anything that members should know regarding managing or creating online accounts? I know that there have been some email blasts, but not everybody gets emails and not everybody reads all the emails that they get. And I'm also curious specifically about whether this migration system could potentially impact online voting, which begins on November 6th.
So a couple answers, Director McAdam. The upgrade that we just did yesterday was to the portal, which is separate from the TEG application that we all use. Accounting uses it, cardholder services uses it, golf uses it, all of the FAs check people into TEG. The portal is a separate website that TEG maintains for us, but it's a separate piece of software that's cloud-based, whereas the TEG server we host that locally. We had to upgrade the portal in order to, use the better features, but the version that we were on was so old that it was unsupported. So we had to upgrade that portal. We've had some hiccups. We're working really hard with TEG to correct those. The difficulties in creating the accounts, we dealt with that yesterday. The golf guys are still having some issues with the tee sheet today, but they're knocking off those issues as we discover them. The TEG migration really will be transparent to the membership, because the TEG migration is just literally taking that TEG application from the existing server, which if you remember from our IT upgrade conversation, is extremely old. Again, the operating system is unsupported anymore by Microsoft. We're just moving that piece of software from the old server that's in the warehouse to the new server room machine that we bought from HP. That should be transparent. Will there be hiccups? Absolutely. You never do an IT upgrade without them, but it's a much less forward-facing change than the upgrade to the portal was.
Okay, so if there was one thing that you wanted membership to know about the portal, what would you want to communicate to them?
We are aware that there were hiccups. We anticipated there would be. TEG is very actively working with us to correct those. And we've gotten all of the actual account setup bugs ironed out. And now we're trying to resolve a couple of the final golf issues with the tee sheet.
Okay, so right now, there's no need for members to be concerned about any action they need to take with respect to either creating or managing an account, right?
There will continue to be folks that have difficulty setting up a new portal account. And our cardholder services folks are ready and waiting to help people through that process. But by and large, the migration with the hiccups is progressing pretty smoothly from my standpoint. I'm always a pessimist when it comes to IT migration, so I think this one has been relatively pain-free.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I'll come back to my further questions, but Director Collins.
Yes. The one thing that I heard, I don't know if it's true, I just want to bring it out here right now and get it taken care of, is they said if two people can't have the same email and vote.
Correct.
So everyone has to.
Yeah, so just to explain what's going on there, the new portal, unlike the old portal, the new portal requires a unique member ID and user email address in order to set up a portal account. And in order to vote online, you need to set up a portal account. We had a lot of folks that if it was two spouses, husband, wife, whatever, they had one email address in TEG under both of those records. That was allowed in the old portal. You could go in, set up an account, and share that email address. For data security and privacy reasons, the new portal requires a unique email address on every portal user account. So we sent some emails out to people that we knew were sharing emails and said, hey, if you want to set up an account on the new portal, please go in, and you can do this online. You can go into your portal account and change your email address. And so it's kind of a pain in the butt if you were sharing an email address. Totally admit that, but that's something that, TEG did as part of their data security situation.
Thank you.
Director Ruff.
Hi, Kevin. Could you just tell us all about the access fees for the Royal Oaks building and structure?
So there are several facilities like Royal Oaks that have paid their PIF in order to allow the residents at those facilities to get a privilege card. So we've had conversations with Royal Oaks because they're building additional units. And as they bring new units on, they will pay a PIF. It's half of what our normal PIF is. I'm sorry, they'll pay a normal PIF, and then every year they pay half of the assessment for every single unit. And then if the members or the residents of that facility want to get a privilege card, they can come in and get a privilege card. So we've collected the PIF for every unit, at Royal Oak, and will continue to do so as they bring additional units online. And then every year, they're paying half of that assessment, and then if the resident would like a privilege card, they can come in and purchase a privilege card.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also in the management report, there's a statement that Viewpoint Lake is supposed to be finished by the end of October, so we're getting pretty close. Is there anything you would like to say, or?
Well, if you drove by Lakeview, you saw a crane up this morning. They're putting the dock back in the water today. We are going to train our staff. It's been 18 months since anybody has had to deal with anything going on in the lake, so we're going to retrain our staff on safety and protocol, but residents should be able to access the lake probably in a week.
Great, thank you. And my last question is that I've heard some really great reports about the condition of the front nine at the North Course. This is an experiment for us, right? And the experiment hasn't finished. We've got partway into it, but we still don't know whether the water reduction that we anticipate is actually going to pan out, right?
Vice President Adam, yes, that's correct. We'll need at least a full summer of summer water use to know how, because that grass is a summer grass. So it's, even though it stays actively growing a little bit longer, it will be going dormant and using less water over the next several months. So once we get into next summer, we'll have a better feel for if it's performing as other courses have seen it perform.
Okay, so that would mean that by this time next year, for instance, we would be able to make a decision about whether that would be a good item to duplicate on other courses. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I'm confident it will be. Plus, another full summer of growth will allow it to mature even better, and it'll be an even better playing surface a year from now.
Thank you.
Seeing no additional questions, is there any objection to acceptance of the management report? The management report will be accepted. Next is the Recreation Center's update report from the General Manager, Mr. D. Luzansky.
Thank you, President Fimmel and Board. I really appreciate it. This is my second meeting, and this setup feels a little strange to me to have my back to all these people. So no disrespect, I'm going to talk from this side. Well, I must say it's been quite an interesting 3 weeks so far. A little bit, I would say, challenging, but also exciting, and it's really been great. So I really thank you for that. There's 3 things that I want to talk about this morning. One is appreciation, the sundial paint job, and the budget. Appreciation, I really appreciate and humbled by this opportunity to serve here, the members of the RCSC, and our privilege card holders as well. And thank you to the board for shaking things up this year, and I think they're kind of shook up for the better. Also, I'd like to say thank you to the staff and the management team, because it's really that group that keeps this place going. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to get to know more of them and continue on. And I want to say a special thanks to Kevin, our Director of Finance and the interim General Manager for 6 months this year, and all the time and effort he put in with the Budget and Finance Committee and the Golf and other committees and just going on in general. So thank you, Kevin. That was, I've learned a lot from you already. I learned some things this morning, too, so I'm continuing to learn and listen. I also want to that's perfectly fine. Thank you, Kevin. I also want to thank Mike, our Directors of Building and Infrastructure, for all the project progress and the implementation of things that are going on here, including the Viewpoint Lake that Kevin mentioned, and the crane, and one of the giant cranes as you'll ever see in your life, putting the dock back in. But really, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we never see, and something like the lake coming to fruition, it's going to be great. And I've been asked about it probably 50 times, and my answer is it'll be fully open soon, probably next month, because we've got some more testing things to do, and we've got a few more things to check out. Like was mentioned, we need to do some staff training and some things around that point. Also, I wanted to thank you, all the members. You know, it's been quite an experience having people come and talk to me and go into committee meetings, but really for your time and your attention and your trust. And one of the things I want to do is rebuild that trust as best I can. And I also want to say thank you for your spirited involvement. I'll just put it that way. There's some great spirited involvement that goes on, especially in the committee meetings, and it does make us really realize what a great place we have here. So thank you to all of you. Turning now to the sundial paint, which if you haven't seen it, you know, it's right out on the corner. So there's a couple reasons that it's been repainted. It wasn't necessarily in the plan to repaint when we did all the sundial, but you know, looking at sundial with this great new refreshed paint job, it didn't make sense for me to leave the sundial looking kind of faded and shabby. So then I started thinking, well, what kind of colors should we paint it? And so I decided to use the colors of the Arizona state flag, and it was my decision. You know, I asked several people, but ultimately I decided, because the time frame was short, the people were here that were finishing up painting this building, the equipment was here, so I went with the Arizona state flag for a couple of reasons, but primarily, you know, that's where things started here. Arizona's a great place. It's a symbol of what took place. That's really an experiment that has taken off in the last 60 years around the country, around the world, with these sort of healthy lifestyle, active to whatever level you want involvement in your community. So that's the reason it was done with that particular colors. The other thing, I wanted it to be a symbol of change. And I think it's change that I think the members have hoped for. The board fully expects of me. They didn't hire me for things to be the same here. And also, the staff is going to appreciate. And let me just talk about a few of those changes. Change number one, members come first. We're here at the rec centers of Sun City to serve all of you the best we can. So answers like, well, that's the way we've always done it, or we don't have money for that, or whatever kind of negative response or stifling response should never be our first response. Now, ultimately, we may look into it and find out that something can't be done, or we don't have the budget this year or whatever, but we should at least listen and understand what the real question is and what the need is. So that's, I think, a pretty critical change. Then the second one is really, our staff is critical. They're the frontline people out there serving you. And they need to be valued and they need to be compensated fairly. And you'll see in the budget presentation, we're addressing that. So in many ways, this family needs to stay together. Our turnover rate hurts us and hurts us in many ways. So we're addressing those. And three, the management is here to support the staff, especially me, the general manager. I believe in what's referred to as servant leadership, and I try to model that in all I do. I think the fourth item is thinking about the board. The board really exists here to provide guidance, direction, and support to the management, and to me. These are the folks I work for, as well as you. And so when you say that the board works for everybody and is elected by all the members, we've really come full circle from the members at the beginning to the members at the end, and it just continues to go round and round. So that's really the main reason that I did the sundial colors, so that it would be a symbol of those changes and more to come. One sort of bonus item that I didn't really know what to expect was the reaction that turned out with the colors on social media. So rather than just asking who decided the colors and getting a straight answer, you know, there's a lot of conjecture that goes on, and there's innuendo, and the whole thing takes on a life of its own. with no accountability, and that's what really bothers me about it. You can sit behind your computer, your phone, and whatever, and you say whatever you want. So I'm thinking about what changes need to be done in that area. More to come on that. And lastly, I want to talk about the '24 budget. We're going to talk about it more, but the budget process in general. It started earlier. It had a lot more meetings this year, a lot more involvement, more discussion. Was it perfect? By no means. It wasn't perfect, but it was a tremendous departure from what's been done in the past. And thank you to all those involved in the board for helping that get going. We're going to improve on that. It was a good start. So over the next few months, we're going to develop documented processes to improve the accuracy, consistency, involvement, and transparency. And yes, I said transparency. We have nothing to hide here. We want everyone to know what we're doing and why. So our goal is to have clear processes for our operating day-to-day budget, for our repair and maintenance capital budget, for our performance and improvement budget, as well as integration and rolling the 5-year budget into the long-year plan. These things should all fit together. These things are tools. That's how I see them. They are tools that are needed to keep this place on track and focused on the member needs. So pretty much that's what I have to say this morning. This is my second meeting. At least I haven't caused too much feedback this time as I did at the exchange, but I'm learning. I appreciate all your comments, and I appreciate any help you can give me. And Kevin's going to go over a few slides now to give us a little more detail on exactly what this '24 budget has in it. Like I say, it's been worked on all summer. It's been posted for a few weeks, and it's going to work out well. I have confidence. So thank you all very much.
I'm not sure which direction to face. This way. Is that okay?
Sure.
You see on the screen.
Bingo. Thank you. So I am not going to go into a great amount of detail on every single component in the budget. I don't think we have the time for that. But I did want to address the primary question out there, which seems to be, why are we increasing our assessment in 2024? In this budget process, I really had 3 primary objectives. The first was to expand the capital project list in order to catch up with some deferred maintenance. On an annual basis, we've been spending $2 to $3 million a year to improve and replace our capital assets at RCSC. That's not a lot of money, given our asset base, which is probably valued at $120 million. So objective number one was to increase that capital spending budget. It was at about $3.2 million this year. Next year, we're targeting about $6 million in capital spending. Second objective, increase our spending in repair and maintenance to better improve the conditions of our assets and our amenities here. And the third was to increase our wage rates to get closer to what the market in this area is paying for similar positions. So let's dive into the detail on that. Capital projects. You can see in 2023, we have a budget of about $3.4 million in capital projects, 2.5 for building and infrastructure, which are things like replacing sprinkler systems, replacing pool equipment, replacing pool decking, fitness equipment. In 2024, we have increased that budget to $6.6 million, so almost doubling that capital budget. Second point, increasing our repair and maintenance budget. I'm looking to increase that from $2.4 million in 2023 to $2.9 million in 2024. Where is that money going? It's going into building repairs, software fees, rolling stock replacement, preventive maintenance. You may be asking, well, what's the difference between capital spending and repair and maintenance? Capital spending is for items or projects that are greater than $5,000 and less than $300,000, 300 being our PIF bar. Repair and maintenance is for unforeseen things, plumbing repairs, electric repairs, roof repairs, et cetera. So trying to increase that budget to accommodate what we're seeing in terms of increased prices for everything these days. Third objective, increase our wage rates here. I've shown this slide at a couple of our budget and finance meetings. That light blue bar is what those positions pay from a 10th percentile to a 90th percentile. That yellow dot is the minimum that Sun City West pays for a similar position, and that green diamond is what we pay on average. So I think the problem is fairly obvious. We're not even paying market rates, and we're certainly behind what Sun City West pays as a minimum for these positions. So in 2024, in the budget, we're trying to remedy this. I'm not trying to get us to Sun City West. I know that they're generating significantly more revenue through their annual assessment than we do, but we've got to get closer. Our turnover rate in 2024 was 47%. It's extremely difficult to run an operation when you're losing half of your employees every year. Looking at what that translates to from a dollar standpoint, the budget in 2023 for repairs for wages and benefits was $13.4 million. We're increasing that to $15.6 million in 2024. About 12% is wage increases, and an additional 5% to add additional heads. We're adding substantial, well, I shouldn't say substantial, but we're increasing the building and infrastructure group. They're the folks that are going to be coordinating and managing all of these additional capital projects, and we're adding a few additional heads in golf, G&A, and in operations. And I just want to put the assessment increase in the context of the overall inflation rate. Since 2017 through 2023, the U.S. inflation rate has been about 26%. When you look at that same time frame and you look at the increase in our assessment, we've gone up 5.8% compared to 25.6%. If I look at our proposed assessment next year of $575, that will increase 15.9% since 2017 compared to the inflation of 29.5%. So we're roughly half what the overall inflation rate in the United States has been since 2017. If we had merely kept up with inflation, we would be charging the $642 assessment in 2024. And I also wanted to point out that that inflation rate is the overall inflation rate. I've shown, this is a bit of an eye chart here, but I've shown some significant expense items that we pay for here at RCSC, and the inflation rate since 2017. Gasoline up, gasoline is up 132%, natural gas 93%, grass seed 86%, fertilizer 85%. We have to pay these expenses, and we have to pay for that primarily through assessment. So these are the things that are driving that assessment increase. Any questions? Questions from the board? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Mm-hmm. That'll be part of the budget process for next year, and it will depend on what we're anticipating doing in terms of projects. But, and this is just me, I would anticipate that I'm going to be recommending to the board another increase next year. We're behind. Yes?
Do we not have to wait until our name's called to come up and speak?
You can yell out That's fine with me.
Mr. McCurdy,
Yep.
when people do yell out, could you repeat their questions so
Sure.
that? Thank you.
Okay, my name's on that to be called up to speak, but I'll just say, because you increased it last year by $25, you're gonna have a lot of protests on this at $50 this year. I understand everything you're saying, and I agree, but you're gonna have a lot of fight up this next few meetings.
Was everybody able to hear the comment? What the woman was saying was that there's going to be a lot of pushback from the membership on this. I understand that, but I think when you look at the increase that we're proposing, again, in the context of what the overall inflation has been in the last 7 years, I don't think it's enough, personally. Yes.
All those same people that are gonna have to pay $50 a year more also have those same increases in their homes.
Sure. And I'll just point out that that cost of living adjustment with Social Security is tied to that inflation number as well. So,
Kevin?
yep.
Just, okay. Just to remind everybody, since if you're having a tough time with your assessment, if you qualify, we will help you with that. So there is other avenues for people who are struggling. Please come down to the rec center and see if you qualify and we can help you.
And just to be clear, Director Collins, that is the Sun City Foundation.
Yes.
That would be providing that assistance. That's not coming from RCSC.
Correct.
And they need to come to the corporate office.
Yeah, you need to go see Marcia in the corporate office.
Sure.
Why, with a huge preservation, or, excuse me, with a huge pit, why can't PIP cover some of all these expenses? I mean, we've got this huge amount of PIP. People are looking at the budget, they're seeing this huge amount of PIP. And saying, why are you asking money from the members? Can you use?
So the question being asked is why can't we use PIF money for some of these expense increases in capital project spending? The PIF was set up specifically for large ticket items, building replacement, similar to what we're talking about with Mountain View. So we're not able to use PIF money for operating expenses or capital projects. That's been discussed, but I don't believe that any of the budget and finance or board members believe that the PIF should be available for operating expenses. The PIF was set up and is being used specifically for the large dollar items like Mountain View. And then a little further down the road, we have a lot of PIF project spending that we're going to need to do on these water reduction projects on our golf courses. So $31 million in the PIF fund might look like a lot, but Mountain View very likely is going to eat up 25 million of that. Those water reduction projects could very likely eat up $20 million of that. So I don't want anybody here thinking that we're flush with cash, right? That money has been spoken for and is going to be needed to do the work that we're anticipating at Mountain View and doing the water reduction projects on the golf course.
Director McCurdy? There is no negotiating with Arizona Water on those fees, is there?
I'll probably ask Brian to speak to that. Brian, correct me if I screw anything up here, but we're waiting to hear back from ADWR on a request for administrative relief under the 5th management plan. They've had some turnover in that department, and we've got a new person assigned to us, but we're still waiting. We should have heard months ago. But listen, everybody reads the news, right? Water is going to be an issue forever in Arizona, and we're going to have to take steps to reduce the water consumption overall, but particularly on our golf courses.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tip Top's a cheaper option than what we have proposed.
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, I thought recently I heard, maybe it was a nasty rumor, but that you had 25, went up 25 last year, up 50. I heard that there are plans that fund, that assessment fund, in the next few years is going to be up to about $800. I don't know. I'm just curious.
So the question posed is, the gentleman indicated that he had heard the assessment could go up to $800. The 5-year plan that is going to be discussed later in this meeting will really be looking at what is the assessment, what's the correct assessment going out 5 years. And in order to get that number, in order to get that assessment number correct, we have to forecast out what our spending is going to be over those next 5 years. I'm only looking forward 1 year in this budget. I can't say with any certainty what the next 5 years are going to look like. I'm looking forward 1 year, where in order to pay for that capital project list, we're already planning on using carry forward or unrestricted cash to start knocking some of those projects out. But that unrestricted cash, that goes away, right? It's not an unlimited amount of money for that. So at some point, we have to get to the point where we're generating enough money through the assessments and all of the fees for golf and bowling, et cetera, to generate enough excess to pay for those capital projects. And that's what that 5-year planning process is going to really be diving into, is what is that correct assessment level 2, 3, 5 years out?
And so that's a question probably for later.
I think that's an accurate statement, yes.
5-year plan.
Yep.
And then let me real quick, though, with talking about that PIP going up to 5,000, 1,000 is going to be used. Is that going to be used for some of these same things?
So I don't want to jump ahead, because that's going to be a separate motion that everybody will have a chance to speak to. Yep. Mike?
I'd just like to say, this is becoming an exchange on this topic.
Mm-hmm.
We have an exchange meeting coming up. We'll have plenty of time to have back and forth things. You're introducing something. It's great for us to see it. It's in turning to recommendation. Let's move on. Let's stop taking questions and go back and forth and argue with PIP and this and that. It's there. The exchange is the place for that to happen. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Kevin?
Yes.
Can I just, is there any members of the Finance Committee meeting, Finance Committee members? Would you guys stand up? Everybody has done a tremendous amount of work on this, and I just hope that you thank them with a round of applause for everything they've done.
Okay, we're going to move on to President's comments. My comments today are about something that happened at last month's meeting. At that board meeting, I made a 20-second comment about Director Nichols and technology. He was so bothered by my comment that during the break, he came over to me and he resigned his position as chairperson of the Technology Committee. The following morning, with Director Nichols sitting right next to me, I asked the audiovisual engineers to edit out those 20 seconds. I mistakenly believed that I was keeping Director Nichols from further embarrassment. Shortly thereafter, I realized that some members might think that I removed the 20 seconds to protect myself. I have written enough about transparency, and the members have said enough about transparency, so it didn't take even a second for me to realize that I needed to contact the audiovisual people again and have them fully restore the recording. Please know with clarity that this is the first, last, and only time I have requested that a recording be edited. All of you who have followed the board this past year know that we are focused on transparency, ownership, and accountability. I'm holding myself personally accountable for the decisions that I made regarding this matter. Nothing is more important to me than having your trust and respect. And that is why I am addressing this issue in this manner today. I thank you for your time.
May I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We'll move on to announcements. Are there any announcements? Oh, Secretary Totten.
Thank you. I believe these are the announcements that we have from either the committees that we chair or the liaison, the other groups that we go to. I am the liaison for the Friends of the Library. Guess what? They're seeking additional board members. If you are interested, please contact me here at my email address, and I'll be sure and get your name to the proper person. I also attend the Showa Roads and Safety Committee. Committee. Residents commented again this month about the problem of speeders in our city. The motorcycle unit from the sheriff's office is not yet in operation, but I think everyone has heard that they do have some stealth undercover cars watching speeders. Please also know, at this meeting, they have told us that the people that they are ticketing are mostly Sun City residents. So remember, everyone, slow down. The November meeting for this group is going to be canceled due to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office Safety and Fraud Summit that is going to be held right here in our auditorium on November 15th from 9 to 12. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell and Sheriff Paul Penzone will be speaking, as well as Captain Brian Stutzman and Coordinator Joan Campbell. This is a free event for all residents of Sun City to keep you safe at home and free from scammers. I also attend the Showa board meeting. Their election for their board members, like ours, is now. It starts next week. If you're a member of Showa, you can vote in person or by accessing their website. If you remember, Showa is our HOA in Sun City for the 17,500 single-family homes. Their membership is up over 900 from last year, but still lacking. If you are not a member and you own a single-family home here in Sun City, I wish you would consider joining them. The fee is just $25 a year. And they are holding their Lifestyle Senior Expo on November 1st from 9 until 1 p.m. at the Sundial Auditorium. This event is something apparently they've had in the past but had to give up when COVID hit. It's a chance to give their business partners a chance to showcase their businesses. As everyone likes to know, there will be food vendors available, plenty of gift baskets and drawings, and staff will be there to answer questions. I am the co-chair of the club's organization committee, COC. The volunteer members of this club, along with the board chair, Steve Collins, and myself, have begun the process of reworking Board Policy 12 and creating a standard of operating procedures to guide both COC volunteer members, new clubs, and clubs that have been in existence for years. We welcome the addition of Chris Herring and clubs, what is her name? Angela Willett. I can't think of her title, I'm sorry. And they will also be helping us. Just a reminder that clubs should be examining their own rules and regulations and updating them yearly. Thank you.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
Yes, and also last month, we had the Stitchers up in the Bell Center, the Silversmiths at the Bell Center, the Silversmiths at Sundial, and the Crafters at Sundial. They all called us and asked us to bring them down a template to help them redo their rules. It's something brand new, and any club that wishes to get it can just ask the COC or the club's office. We will get it to them. It will help them redo their rules and make it easier for them. That was the whole goal. They can look at it. They can do what they want with it. They can put in their numbers. I think they'll find it very useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President McGinn.
So just another reminder that the annual membership meeting is coming up on Wednesday, November 29th at 6 p.m. here in the Sundial Auditorium. There is a sheet of paper in the back with an explanation of the deadlines for submitting motions. So there still are opportunities to submit motions for revision of corporate bylaws or for any material motions need to be submitted by November 10th. There is also, the Elections Committee met yesterday to talk about the proxy process. So we have revised, and I'm not sure if it's up yet, Marcia, but we have revised some of the information about the collection of proxies. Is that already posted, or?
Yes, and I sent it to Jolynn, and she asked me this morning about it if it had been approved, but it will get posted today.
All right, so give it a day or two if you're interested in getting more information about the process for collecting proxies for that meeting. You can find it under the Forms tab for the RCSC website. That's also listed on this sheet of paper in the back. So for those who are watching by video, it's www.suncityaz.org/forms/, but give it a day before you go there, because we had to tweak a few things because this is a little bit of a new process for us.
Director Nichols.
Yeah. There I'm on. Since we're making announcements, I am the liaison to Sun City Can. They are coming up to their season of donations. And one thing that I like to share with people, and I have been a supporter of Sun City Can for many years, but if you pay Arizona income tax, which I do, you can get up to an $800 tax credit with a donation to Sun City Can. So at least I feel a little more comfortable about my tax dollars going to something local. And so I encourage everyone to consider it. They do an excellent job. They help people in need. They do help people outside of Sun City, but a majority of the people they work with are Sun City residents. So I just wanted to thank you and hope consider it in your.
Explain what that is, because most people won't know.
Well, Sun City Can is a community action network. They have offices at 103rd and Coggins. If you need help with taxes at the end of the year, they have people there that will help you with taxes. They also have a representative from the assessor's office that comes in that in some cases, if you're income challenged, I'll just use that word, you can get tax credits or reductions in your taxes on your home. So and they have a whole gamut of other things. They actually have a house paintings service if you qualify. So it's an excellent organization. Keep thinking of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we will move on to the committee recommendations. Please remember that committee recommendations do not require a second. The first item of business is the recommendation on the 2024 operating and capital budget for approval as recommended by the Finance and Budget Committee. And that would be, this is being submitted by Treasurer Fast and Vice President McAdam. Treasurer Fast, would you like to comment?
Comment?
Well, would you like to speak first to the motion?
Oh, I'm in favor of it.
You want to read the motion?
Didn't I just read the motion? No. Would you like to read the motion?
I'll defer to Treasurer Fast.
Would you like to read the motion?
I can.
Thank you.
Let me get with you here. Is this it? Okay, you got it. Oh, it's that one, yeah, okay. I move that the 2024 operating and capital budget is approved as recommended by the Finance and Budget Committee.
Ms. Johnson, please read the names of people who would like to speak to this.
Do you need a second?
It does
No.
not require a second, sir.
No committee recommendations. When I read your name, please come up to the podium and state your name and member number. Each speaker will have 3 minutes for comments as indicated by the light on the stage. The first name I had is Nancy Greathouse. You're going to pass? Okay. And the other person was Cheryl McLean. Okay.
Okay.
There are no more people that signed up.
All right.
Just those two.
Are there any comments by the directors? Director Nichols.
Yes, I have attended most of the Budget and Finance Committee, and I also was a former member of it before I got on the board. I really want to commend the staff and the committee for working through this. It's not an easy process, and unfortunately, sometimes the news isn't good. But I appreciate all the effort they did. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Secretary Totten.
Thank you, President Fimmel. This has been a very difficult choice for me. I'm not grandstanding. I'm expressing my reasoning for what I thought was my vote when I walked in here today. The assessment fee was raised last year when I was a candidate. At that time, with the amount of PIF, that we had and the amount of unrestricted cash carry forward, it was extremely difficult for me as a candidate to understand the need for the increase. We have a new year, a new budget, and new leadership changes at several levels of RCSC, who have made it their goal to explain to us why we need to raise the assessment this year and possibly subsequent years. I feel that Director McCurdy did us a huge favor this morning by addressing some of these issues in more detail. And I now can understand a little bit better why it has to be $50 instead of $25. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further director comments? Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Sorry. This is the recommendation regarding the Finance and Budget Committee to approve the 2024 operating and capital budget. Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
President Fimmel,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Madam President, we have 8 yes votes, 1 member not present.
By a vote of 8-0, the recommendation passes its first reading. The next item is a motion on behalf of the, excuse me, behalf of the Golf Advisory Committee to retain the non-resident passes at a cost of $32.50 without carts and no surcharge, capped at 250 passes. Previously sold passes will be honored until their expiration. Director Collins is maker of the motion. Would you like to speak to it first?
Yes, Madam President. I want to thank the Golf Advisory. They worked very hard in coming up with what we did, and I have to applaud them. Harry, he was a big part of it, so special thank you to you.
Madam Chair.
Yep.
Director Nowakowski?
The order that we did these were in our agenda. When we change that, I think we have to do a amendment to this to say that we need to amend the budget to include the income from the non-resident golf passes.
Director Nowakowski, we have 2 motions, the second of which will address the financial issues. When we did the agenda this morning, we did not switch those 2.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Director Collins, continue, please.
This was a something that the golfers really wanted to keep. They have friends, and you know, there's going to be some things that still have to be worked out, but Brian has assured me that he will take care of that. But right now, this is income that will help get us some new equipment and other things for golf. So, thank you.
Marcia, has anyone signed up to speak on this motion?
Harry Emerson.
Harry Emerson, 130678. I'm here to speak in support of the motion that Steve just made, and that is to raise or amend the decision of the budget to raise the non-resident pass to $32.50, no cart. It's a very controversial issue, which many of you have been involved in those discussions, ranging from some think that the 147 non-resident pass holders, which is quickly moving, I think 175 by now as people are getting the word, are stopping every tee time and prime time, and other offenses where the reality is twofold. You can look at that as 4% of the tee times, which is not much, or that 4% equates to 15,000 times slots, which could be considered as a lot. The popular discussion is, what about the revenue estimated to be 300 to 450K, depending on how you want to count that. And I think we're at a point where you can make a good case not to do that, as which the current budget that you all just passed does, to reinstate this pass at $32.50, then gives us that revenue to buy us another year. I think in the outcoming years, we need to address the possibility that over-reliance on non-resident income could, in fact, put us upside down on what we want to do. But right now, I think we're okay. It's not cut and dried. It's a very emotional issue to a lot of people. In our Greens Committee, we discussed this in agonizing detail, and we came to the consensus of the motion that you see now, 3250 with no cart. We did the same thing in Golf Advisory a week or two ago and arrived at a unanimous vote to adopt. So I just recommend that you all approve the reinstatement of the non-resident pass at 3250, no cart. I might also add is that since we changed the order, there may be some people that want to speak in these next two motions that didn't sign up because they thought they were going to be in the top of the batting order. Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken on this motion.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or discussion from the directors?
Yes, Madam President.
Secretary Totten.
Once again, I came to this meeting with a decision made, and in chatting with the Director of Golf and the Director of Finance beforehand, I believe I'm changing my thoughts. I was under the assumption, after speaking with Director Collins, that this recommendation would guarantee that no non-member will pay less here at Sun City to play golf than any member. In my eyes, members come first. We pay an assessment to live here, and we pay a PIF to live here. I'm not sure I can explain why my thoughts have changed, but that's all I wish to say.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion by the directors? Seeing none, Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you. This vote is in regards to the recommendation from the Gulf Advisory Committee to retain non-resident passes. Secretary Collins?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote no. That's 7 yes, 1 no, 1 member not present.
7-4, 1 opposed. The motion passes its first reading. The next item on the agenda is on behalf of the Golf Advisory Committee with regard to the 2024 budget proposed for golf. Director Collins, as the maker of the motion, do you wish to speak to it first?
Just briefly, again, the Golf Advisory Committee worked very hard on this to come up with this. And Brian and Kevin, you did a superb job. I think that was the best presentation I've ever seen at the last Golf Advisory. And with that, I have no more.
Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those who have, would like to speak to this motion.
Harry Emerson. Excuse me.
Harry Emerson, 130178. I'm here to speak for the adoption of this motion. I'm not sure, I was thinking about it, it might be a moot motion since we just approved the one before, but just to let you all know the logic was the same as I just talked about, what we discussed in the Greens Committee that I'm on, all of these various fee proposals, rate increases, and there were a number of them. Our committee, we had some that wanted higher rates, some that wanted lower, and some wanted to leave them alone, and we hashed through all the numbers. Some of them I would personally like to tweak here and there, but the numbers that were included in the 24 budget are about what we could get consensus on in the committee that I'm in, and we carried that forward to Golf Advisory. So I recommend that the board approve this motion.
Thank you.
Tom Foster.
Good morning, Tom Foster, and my number is 138061. I serve on the Willow Creek Greens Committee and on Budget and Finance. And nobody likes higher prices. Nobody wants to go to the grocery store and find they can't afford things they used to get, or at the gas station or restaurants or at a golf course. However, if you look at our financials that Kevin has circulated quite widely now, from 2010 to 2022, 13 years, the operating revenue was less than the operating expenses in 8 of those 13 years. And when you add in the capital expenditures, we were negative in 11 of those 13 years. So golf is, I think, struggling a bit here. We did not raise resident pass prices. They've been constant since 2019, if I read Kevin's numbers correctly. The resident daily prices, I think, have gone up $4 since 2019. That didn't make a big dent in too many things. Costs for seed, fertilizer, sand, pesticides, labor, and on that Kevin had thrown up on his slide, that is the truth. I mean, it's just hard to deal with all of these things if you're not going to look at your revenue side of this. I know the proposed increase may seem a lot, but we've fallen behind by not addressing this over the last few years. Our green fees in Sun City are still well below those of our competitors. Our goal is not to make Sun City golf courses Augusta National, where they play the Masters every April. If you get a chance to go, you should go. It's an awesome place. But we do need green grass in our fairways and on the greens. We need sand in the bunkers. We need to manage, not that we'll ever eliminate, but we need to manage the crabgrass and the other weeds that creep in on the golf courses. So I support this raise in fees here, and we'll work diligently with the golf folks here to be part of the solution here, not part of a problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Christy Dorch.
Christy Dorsch, 124740. I guess there's really not a lot more I can say. I'm kind of on the Harry and Tom bandwagon. I've been to a lot of meetings, which is very unusual for me. So I think this needs to be done. If you are golfers and you had played on the golf courses earlier this year, you would wonder if we were on a cow pasture, were we actually on a golf course? I didn't know. So it's something that really needs to be done. We have not raised our prices, and I know it's going to hurt some people, but if you want this to continue in the future and you want it to entice people to come in, you've got to up this and make it right. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken on this motion.
Thank you. Are any comments or discussion by the directors?
Yes, Madam President.
Secretary Totten?
If it wouldn't upset Director McCurdy, I would like him, if you, like me, have read the budget, you know that in the budget, there is, let him explain it. I think he knows what I'm talking about. Yes, you do. It's what I asked you this morning. How can we do one when what is in the budget is
okay,
not?
So Director Todd, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to try to encompass what we were talking about earlier. The question was, Is it necessary to amend the budget that was just recommended for approval? I'm not going to give you a crystal clear answer there.
But tell them, in case they haven't all read through the entire budget, tell them why I asked you this. Because of your line item under,
Under the non-member pass revenue?
yes.
Okay, so in the budget, and remember a month ago when I had to circulate the final budget to Budget and Finance Committee, there were motions pending for this board to do quite a few things with golf, particularly on revenue. And one of those questions was, are we going to, or is the board going to eliminate non-member passes entirely? For budgeting purposes, knowing that there was an open question there, I always try to budget conservatively, and if there was a question that that revenue was not going to be there in 2024, I budgeted for elimination of those passes. Because those passes are 12 months and we recognize revenue over the life of those passes, there was still some non-member pass revenue in that budget, but it was tailing off and eliminated by the end of the year. By continuing to sell these non-member passes, we will generate additional revenue. It's not going to be the full amount because we already have some of that revenue in the budget. So I'm looking at somewhere in the 200 to 250K range for additional revenue from golf that is not in that budget. The other thing that we talked about, and I may be putting words in your mouth, is whether we need to formally amend the budget.
Yes.
Honestly, to me, it doesn't matter. We have a budget, and that budget is a guide. That budget tells everybody, this is what we think is going to happen financially in 2024. Budgets are static. Things change over the course of a year. We have projects that were not in the 2023 budget, but because the board felt they were important, we've added them to the project list. They're not in the budget, but we're still doing them. This could fall within that category of things where this is just revenue that was not in the budget that's going to be a favorable variance. Do I need to amend the budget? No, I don't. But if we would like to publish the budget with this revenue in it, I'm happy to do that. It's a very small change. So up to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Director McCurdy, is it, I don't want to be too simplistic here, but is it fair to say you didn't have a number to put in the box, and with the approval of this motion, you will now have a number to put in the box?
Correct.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion by the directors? Seeing none, Secretary Totten, could you please take the roll call vote?
Certainly. This is the recommendation of the Golf Advisory Committee to accept the RCSC's management's 2024 budget proposal for golf. Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Darbett? I'm sorry, he's not here. Director Nichols?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I abstain. That is 7 yes, 1 abstention, and 1 director not present.
One moment, please. So that is a vote of 7 yes, 1 abstention.
Correct.
So the motion will pass its first reading. Director Collins.
Yes, Madam President, I would like to move to waive the second reading on this one so that the next reading to complete the budget, this will already be approved and it will be in there.
There is a motion to waive the second reading. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a second. Is there discussion? Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you. This is to waive the second reading Vice President McAdam,
Yes.
Treasurer Fast,
Yes.
Director Nowakowski,
Yes.
Director Collins,
Yes.
Director Ruff,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
President Fimmel,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That's 8 in favor.
With a vote of 8-0, the motion passes. The second reading has been waived. The motion is implemented. Okay. The next item is on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee, and that is a separate fee of $1,000 be attached to the property transfer under the jurisdiction of the RCSC. This fee shall be added to the current PIF. Okay, and it's for the improvements in the capital budget. Is that correct? No.
Right.
Right. Okay. So, Vice President McAdam, do you have, as maker of the motion, do you wish to speak to it first?
Certainly. This is something new. It's creating a new fee that we have not in the past assessed. The rationale behind it is that, as we've all seen amply demonstrated and know from our own personal experiences, costs are simply exploding. And in order for us to fulfill our moral obligation to take care of the things that we own, we simply need an increased revenue stream to be able to direct towards those things. So as you saw, the budget for 2024 accomplishes this big jump in the number of capital projects that we're doing by drawing down $6.3 million out of $10 million of our carry forward. That leaves $3.5 million for next year and nothing for the years that follow. That's not sustainable. We can't always go back to carry forward in order to fund these things. And so this is an attempt to say, let's do this, allow PIF to remain with its restrictions, but to add another fee that would be designated towards capital projects that don't qualify for PIF funding. So just as a little background to this, we know that Sun City West increased its equivalent PIF fee to $5,000 in July of this year. So by us making a property transfer, $4,000 plus $1,000, $5,000 would put us right in line with our closest competition. Realtors that we have spoken with have told us this is not a big stumbling block for people purchasing. If you're purchasing a $300,000 or $350,000 home, and you know this is a one-time fee, it's probably not going to make a lot of people say, oh, if I have to pay $5,000, I'm not going to buy that house. I'll only buy it if I only have to pay a $4,000 fee. So we're simply viewing this as a way to adjust to market realities, to adjust to the fact that as homes become more expensive, it's logical for the transfer fees that are associated with those to be increased as well. And this is simply a way to balance the our other option is to raise assessment fees in order to cover those things. And this is which we realize does need to happen, but this is a way to help prevent us from having to make our assessment fees the only source of the increased funding for capital projects that we have.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those who would like to speak on this motion.
Dave Whalen.
Dave Whelan, 17077. I'm here to speak on behalf of this motion, and I'm also in favor of it, so everybody on the board don't have a heart attack because they agreed with you. I would like to thank President McAdam for bringing this forward. It was one of my questionable ideas I threw out on the floor during a budget and finance meeting, and it involves the transfer fee, which is currently and has been, and I bought a house in 1998, and
My former mother-in-law purchased a place with her husband in 1970, and the fee was $300. It hasn't changed at least since 1970. This increase will be going to a lot of things concerning capital have been thrown around, and I'd just like to clarify some things. This is going to what is known as capital reserve, which is part of the rolling 5-year plan, which is designated for items that don't qualify for PIF. So this is, as Kevin McCurdy said, lawn chairs and heating units and resealing parking lots and things of that nature. It is a separate restricted fund. The other restricted fund is cash reserve, which speaks for itself. It's strictly money. Sun City does have 4 operational funds that are funded. One is operational, which is the assessment. Cash reserve, restricted. Capital reserve. Think of it as assessment preservation fund. And the last being PIF, which speaks for itself. I know on budget and finance, there was a lot of glazed eyes in the area I call it the peanut gallery. And it does seem overwhelming, but we're doing our best to make things simplified so that the members understand, and I hope that the board passes the motion unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nancy Greathouse.
Thank you. Nancy Greathouse, 149885. I may be a little confused with all this, so I'll just make it brief. I am against this only because I don't think there's enough explanation of what this is supposed to be covering. It can wind up being quite a bit of money, and the term slush fund falls through my head every now and then when I hear things like this without knowing what the restrictions would be on these funds. I understand they don't qualify for PIF, and we have budgeting purposes for other needs that we have to fulfill. So I'm wondering what that gap is that we're going to throw in and spend this money on. Just my thought. Thank you.
Bill Pearson.
Bill Pearson, 133438. First time in 15 years that I've agreed with Dave Whelan on anything. I stand to speak in favor of this motion, but before I go there, I got to tell you, Matthew, I've been waiting 20 years for a GM to say the words that you said today, so thank you very much. I, for the first time in 20 years, attended some Budget and Finance Committee meetings, which happened to be run during the summer when everybody else was supposed to be off, and SAC and Budget and Finance were running. Spectacular to take that chore on, Kevin, brilliant. I learned a lot sitting there, and then I heard this proposal, and I thought this is pure genius, literally pure genius, that we would take a piece of that increase and set it aside for capital. Now, the good news is, for those of you that aren't numbers oriented, that $1,000 will generate somewhere next year between $1.7 and $2 million. It's what we sell in homes. That is not calculated into your workups for your budget. And when we look at that $1.7 to $2 million in addition, I then look at the $50 increase and go, well, do you really need 50? Can you do 25 and then 25 the next year? Because I've heard this word thrown about several times now, and it's accountability. We're going to ask the staff to take on enormous tasks. And I've seen remarkable changes so far this year in the projects that have been taken on, and I think next year will be twice that. That said, I don't know that we need the full 50. I would be more comfortable hearing 25, 25, and if each ensuing year you get all those projects done, we know that that $25 increase is going to generate about $900,000 a year. And so from a practical standpoint, if we pick up $2 million out of the $1,000 that you're doing here, that actually buffers or tamps down the amount of money we need from the residents, and it comes off the backs of the homes being sold. I think it's a win-win if you can do it that way. I think most people that are in the process of the budgeting process, their own homes, can more comfortably do 25, 25, and if each ensuing year we see the ramp up and the improvements and the projects getting accomplished, it'll generate the same revenue we need over the 5-year rolling period. And oh, by the way, there's another thing we've never done. So kudos to the board. You've made enormous strides. What I'm seeing from management is spectacular, even if I don't like the paint colors on the sundial. Laugh, Matthew. It doesn't matter what I think. I love what you're doing. I honestly love what you're doing. It's a change in direction. It's a change in attitude. I love the explanation that a new color sets a new tone and attitude and atmosphere for the community. I buy that. So I pass this motion. It's a great step. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken on this motion.
Thank you. Any comments and discussion from the Director Ruff?
Thank you. I've had 4 or 5 people that have come up to me and asked about this and said, "What? You're raising it again?" And I said, I want you to think about this as a new buyer. I moved here from Oregon with an equivalently priced house, and I was paying $6,000 a year in property tax. Here I'm paying $1,000. That one-time fee is like paying my taxes for 1 year there, and I don't have to pay them again. So everyone I said that to went, yeah. Now, as to what the money's going to be used for, it will allow us to use a little less of that the unexpended cash balance, so that we can use it for next year and the year after. That's only 3 years. Then we're going to have a source for the additional 2 or 3 million that we're taking out of the unrestricted cash balance. So we still need to do the $50. And then as we do the 5-year projection, we'll see how it all flows and modify things as it makes sense. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other directors?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast.
I'm fully in favor of this motion. I think it's a great motion. I have a friendly amendment to it to fit it into the existing bylaws. We have a section on fees and assessments. And Director McAdam, I believe what you want this to be is triggered on the same basis as the PIF assessment. Okay. And there's all that language about bequests and this and that and the other thing. So I'm going to propose another way of stating exactly the same thing that can go into the bylaws, so that when a resident moves into Sun City, they can look at our bylaws and they can see this fee. If that would be okay, I will read you the amended language. Okay.
Please.
On behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee, I move that a separate assessment of $1,000 be levied on all property transactions described under Bylaws Article 3, Section 2. That's where the PIF is. The fund created by this assessment shall be designated the Capital Improvement Fund, and monies collected in this fund shall only be used for major capital expenditures that do not qualify for PIF funding. It is intended that this motion will be followed up with a motion to memorialize these details as a new section of Article 3 of the bylaws.
There's a, hold on, there's a amendment on the table. And so is there a second to the amendment that is on the table?
Second.
There's a second. Okay. Do you want to discuss?
Yes. I'm positively disposed towards this, Treasurer Fast, with one exception, and that is I don't believe that we put a number in our bylaws for the PIF because that can be adjusted without a bylaws change. And so my preference would be to say simply that a separate fee will be charged without saying what the number would actually be.
If I could respond? The motion sets the number, and the follow-up motion would just set the bylaw that there's a fee or an assessment. It doesn't have to state the amount.
Okay, so this motion was not intended to be the wording for a bylaw. This was a motion to actually just achieve a procedure, a new procedure. And we can discuss what the bylaw should actually be in order to make this a reality that's accessible to anybody looking at our bylaws. I'm just concerned that if it's being promoted as a bylaw wording, that we really don't want to have a number affiliated with that because that number should be subject to change in subsequent years.
Director Nowakowski.
Thank you. I'm not sure procedurally if that changes the intent of the motion. My suggestion would be if this one passes, could we do the bylaw change next month, do an amendment, instead of trying to do an amendment to this, do a separate motion to the bylaw, pass it to make sure under our changing the rules and doing it in one read, other than trying to figure out what we're attempting to do now. That would be my suggestion. We passed this, and it seems to be in agreement with the whole board. Then before we do the second read on it next month, then we add the bylaw change to go with it.
Does that mean you're asking Treasurer Fast to withdraw his amendment?
I would ask Treasurer Fast and Director Ruff to withdraw their motion based on the fact that we can do this all in two separate motions.
Secretary Totten.
I would have appreciated a heads up to the amendment before sitting here in front of everyone. So I have a tendency to agree with Director Nowakowski.
Treasurer Fast.
May I say that I wrote this morning at 5:30. I don't think I wanted to wake you up.
I was waiting.
Okay.
I'm happy to withdraw the motion.
Thank you. Is there any other Mr. Director?
I would like to ask John to read the motion without the fee amount in it, which is, I think, what was in there, so that we all, because we just heard it, we don't have it in front of us to see exactly what you're proposing.
We have nothing in front of us.
That's what I said.
Except that he's withdrawn the motion.
Well, I'd still like him to.
Well, we can get it.
But yeah, just one moment, please. This was withdrawn, unless you are now asking Mr. Fast, Treasurer Fast, to reinstate a motion that was just withdrawn.
If that motion did not have the $1,000 in it, I think we should go forward with it, and we can modify it second reading next month, and we're done. But if it does have the $1,000 in it, then we'll look at it later. I don't understand why we wouldn't want to do it now.
Treasurer Fast.
You know, I think because the directors probably are unfamiliar with the bylaws, not unfamiliar. You're not carrying around the bylaws in your memory the way I was looking at them this morning. And so I think that the confusion here is that there isn't processing time to process the amendment. So I'm happy to withdraw it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We are now back to the original motion. Is there any final comments? Director Nichols.
Thank you. I just wanted to comment to say that none of us want to see additional fees and charges. Although we're living in a world of reality where everything is costing more. This this change for the $1,000 fee, for the lack of a better term, is probably one of the best efforts that I can see as far as for the board using in the interim, maybe that would be 3, 4, 5 years. We don't know what the future is going to bring us, but to not have to impose some sort of a special assessment on all members. So I think that this is actually a move forward, and I think it might be an interim move forward, but we need to truly consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Okay. Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you, President Fimmel. This is on motion on behalf of the Finance and Budget Committee that a separate fee of $1,000 be attached to all property transfers. Director Collins?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer Fast?
Abstain?
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nichols?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's 7 yes votes, 1 abstention.
With a vote of 7 for and 1 abstention, the motion passes its first reading.
Can we have a break?
There's a request for a break.
Or I'll
Ladies and
just-
gentlemen, let's please take a 10-minute break. Thank you.
You could have. I don't need it.
Thank you very much. We need to resume our agenda. I do not see Treasurer Fast. Treasurer Fast? Okay. Okay. Please note that Treasurer Fast is not present. Okay, moving right along, the next items are second readings. We'll begin with the second reading of the motion by Director Ruff to amend Board Policy Number 8. I'm sorry? 18. Okay, regarding bowling. Director Ruff.
On behalf of the Bowling Committee, I move to amend Board Policy Number 18 titled Bowling, sections titled Use of Bowling Centers, Instruction Classes, and Bowling Tournaments.
Ms. Johnson, has anyone signed up to speak to this?
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion by the directors? Seeing none, we'll go ahead, Secretary Totten, and take the roll call vote.
Thank you, President Fimmel. Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
The numbers?
7 yes,
7 yes,
2
0. With a 7-0, the motion passes its second reading and is adopted. The next is the second reading, is the second reading of a motion by Director Collins. No?
Director Ruff.
Director has another, okay, let's take a look. Second reading. Okay.
For the bylaws definition of business affairs of the corporation.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay. I move to amend bylaws section titled Definition for Bylaws by adding the following definition for business affairs of the corporation. Business affairs of the corporation is defined as all matters conducted by the corporation, excluding amendment of bylaws that are not in violation of its corporate documents or the Arizona Nonprofit Corporation Act in effect at the time the matter is conducted.
Ms. Johnson, has anyone signed up to speak on this?
Madam President, no one signed up to speak on this motion.
Are there any comments or concerns about the directors?
I'll just explain why we're putting this in here. The affairs of the corporation is addressed in bylaws, and a lot of people were confused about what it meant. And I felt like this fit in with the 5 amendments from 2021 that the members wanted to pass, that this explains what the affairs of the corporation is. Basically, the board, general manager can do everything except that if the members make a motion on the bylaws, they can override, that overrides the board or supersedes the board's authority. And that's just making it clear for everyone what that means. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you, President Fimmel. Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That's 7 yes, 0 or not 0.
With a vote of 7-0, the motion passes its second reading and is adopted. Next is another second reading, this one from Director Collins regarding board policy number 12, titled Charter Clubs, Section 17, Club Member Discipline. Director Collins.
Thank you, Madam President. This adds a paragraph at the end. If a board member is the accused party in a conduct report, the club's executive board must not address the issue. The report should be forwarded to the club's organization committee for action. If a board member is the accused party, further actions by the board are not applicable, and the club's organizations committee shall ensure due process, including any right to appeal.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of any members who signed up to speak on this motion.
Dave Whalen?
I withdraw.
All right, he was the only one.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion by the directors? Seeing none, Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you, President Fimmel. Director Nichols?
I guess yes, because I'm not aware of any problems, so.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes, 7 in the affirmative.
With a vote of 7-0, this motion passes its second reading and is adopted. Another second reading. This is the second reading of a motion by Secretary Totten establishing the Outreach and Communications Committee RSBP 27 titled Standing Committees.
The purpose of the Outreach and Communication Committee is to ensure that we increase our visibility, help reestablish a sense of community, identify key messages, connect with our members, board of directors, and our RC staff, while recommending avenues for an exchange of information, encouraging active participation, and serving as a link with our community partners to promote quality messages as we all serve the same people.
Ms. Johnson, please read the names of any members who signed up to speak to this motion.
Mike Wendell.
I timed this for 3 minutes, but I see 2 minutes on the clock, so I'm going to try and speed it up a bit. But I bought my home in March of 2018. I've been here 5.5 years, a little over that. My first involvement was about 6 months later, joining the Communications Committee in October. And last month, you talked about it, and it was a matter of it died slowly, didn't it? The reason it happened is it died because of COVID-19. It died because newly elected board members taking chair positions with no transition from former leadership. And it died because there was a desire to go technology route, and the committee eventually became Communications Through Technology, and then the In Focus Committee. And I have the board of directors down, who was there, and all the things that changed. I resigned on February 12, 2020. COVID had hit. Things were happening, and the direction was we wanted to Communications Through Technology, and it was already starting to talk about even In Focus and things of that nature. So it was wiped from the commission from Board Policy 27, well, it's now Board Policy 27, but was Bylaws Article 10, Section 1. And it was shortly after that point I just said, this is not what I signed up for. It's an advisory committee. I spoke to it at that time, and I said, the In Focus and all that violated because it wasn't advisory anymore. Advisory is kind of removed from the new Board Policy 27, but a committee is supposed to be advisory to the board. So this new committee should be an advisory committee. The In Focus committee is not. The committee should not take any function of RCSC. It's not to replace or supplement anything there. It's to be an advisory to the board. It should look at content and methods of communication. It should look at what information is hard to find and not available to members. It should not be a challenge to get information in this community. This can be a place for members to reach out with their problems finding things. Committees involve members. And so I think it deserves to be brought back. Nearly all the RCSC communication today is to the membership one way. You tell us things. It's on the website. It's in Sunviews. It's email blasts. It's press releases. Pulling information is difficult. You got to go hunt around the website. Google actually does a better job than our own search capabilities. And the recently restored exchange meetings are the only significant way to provide feedback, which is a very good thing, but that's really this year. We need other methods. We need to consider social media for member discussion and not just leave it out to the Wild West, as our new general manager kind of said. You know, they're out there and they're talking about it and there's no control and you can sit down and write whatever you want. We should be paying attention to it, and we should, if some case comes up and something's going south, maybe there should be an official word to say, try and steer them back and say, here's the facts, and not get in and try and mediate a discussion or anything else, but provide good information. And the Communications Committee might be a way to investigate some of that, figure out what's going on, identify the things that are out there. I actually found a memo that was written about 6 months before I joined the committee, And it's an interesting memo that was written by Jan Schneiderman, who was probably the longest term committee member. She'd been on it since it was the members committee. And it was about the attempt in 2018, or the discussion to disband the committee. And it talked about a lot of things that committee did over the years. And I could just give a real brief summary. They recommended Wi-Fi at the rec centers. They did some things, I guess, the website format and marketing website, conception and creation of Sunviews came about as a result of that committee. The Sun City Annual Magazine, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it even exists anymore. Bulletin boards, electric signage, information boards at rec centers, member cards, renter cards. A lot of these things came into play, and they were ahead of before I was here. 50th anniversary, you know, it's a lot of stuff they did. And I would like to see that brought back. So I'm in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Pearson.
Bill Pearson, 133438. Effective communication was one of the first classes I ever took, and I learned quickly that listening was a huge part of it. Unfortunately, we got away from that for a lot of years. We've returned to listening to the members. Now we need to know how to interact. The other night at both of the forums, people said, we don't know how to reach people. Well, you don't reach them by pushing them away. You reach them by drawing them in, by bringing them in, by interacting with them on every level imaginable. So I stand in support of this motion. It can do nothing but help us as we go down that road to bringing the membership back to being the owners of this organization, to being involved and committed to our future. Beth is doing a great job posting up information on social media, but just think about it. Every event today, last night, every event is an opportunity to tell people how good we are. And the vast majority of us with our butts in chairs believe that. This is that great of an organization and a community to live in. Let's make it greater. Pass this motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda McIntyre.
Linda McIntyre, 123216. Good morning. I also stand in support of this motion. Coming from part of my background in convention or Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Bureau, I know how important communication is. Our members, the first I lost my train of thought already. Their first touch point with RCSC is the time they walk into the card services and meets with a member of the staff. And from there on, every attempt of outreach goes from that point on. And we have an opportunity every single day for communication with our membership. It isn't just social media, although that's important, but we have to remember that not everybody is attached to social media. We have print and we have one-on-one, but we also have to have communication between our committees, between the committee and the board, between our staff and our members, our event people. We've missed many opportunities, and I look forward to the town halls in November, so our members have a chance to talk among our members and share our ideas. I think this is a critical opportunity that's been missed. I do have to say, in the 10 years that we've been here, in the last year, there's been a great improvement in a lot of things that have happened, and I credit this board with transparency, with more transparency and more attempts that have taken place to improve a lot of the communication, but we've missed many opportunities. One is the Sunview by not being included in the independent. Not a lot of our older members don't have smartphones. They're not on their computers. They still need to hear from us and know the things that are going on. So I fully support, we could go on and on with this, but I do fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Roloff.
Join the parade. Ben Roloff, 12663. I too support this motion. I hope you pass it. I hope you pass it unanimously. This is another step forward of returning this organization back to the members. I wasn't going to speak today until I went to the candidate forum Monday and Wednesday, and I heard the same thing I heard for the last 16 or 17 years at candidate forums, is that we need to have better communication with our members, and we need more transparency. I even remember back to you, Dennis, when you were 2005, 2006. This has been a common theme. And yet what do? We take the communications committee and we stick it on a shelf. Now, the next thing I would suggest is that take a look, if you haven't yet, at the report we received on the preliminary report from ASU about the members. Go back to the section where they found out that 20% of our members said if they asked, they would be on a standing committee. And then go back to the section that talks about the incredible talent base that we have in Sun City of highly educated professional people in fields like technology, communication, web design, who could be asked to help you and the staff do a better job of fulfilling what all of you, as I recall, made as promises when you were candidates, that you were going to communicate better with us as members and you were going to be more transparent. Please vote yes.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken.
Thank you. Are there any comments or discussion with the directors? Seeing none, Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you. Director Nichols?
I'm going to abstain.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
Treasurer, President Fimmel?
Yes.
And I vote yes. 6 yes, 1 abstention.
With 6 yes and 1 abstention, the motion passes its second reading and is adopted. I don't note any items on the consent calendar, so we'll proceed to new business. The first item of new business is a motion by Director Collins to increase the softball club project to $1,380,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Director Collins, as maker of the motion, would you like to speak to its adoption?
Well, they've been trying to do this for over 5 years. It wasn't their fault that the whole world turned upside down and all the prices went through the roof. So I urge everyone to please vote yes.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, please read the names of those members who signed up to speak on this motion.
Ron Coppice. I hope that's how you say his name. Okay, good.
Ron Coppice, 161548. Madam President, board members, management, and card holders. I heard there was an important meeting this morning, so we drove from Michigan real fast the last 2 days. So, yeah, my wife and I like to drive, so it went fast. You made a comment to me, Madam President, last summer that I've been in front of this board, not this board necessarily, but the 2 boards, over 15 times. When I went back and looked, this is the 17th time, so you're pretty accurate in that. Because I do have a passion for what we're trying to do. We're trying to get a building built. 8 years ago, we had some sketches made, and Arnie Kabarnberg and Tommy Delopoulos, Dan Braddock, did some sketches and worked with Chris Herring. Chris Herring and Mike Winthrop have put countless hours into fine-tuning a building. And when I came on the scene 4 years ago, I wasn't into a clubhouse building, because when I came on the scene, all of a sudden they started breaking into our buildings and stealing all of our stuff. We had 6 break-ins, so I got 6 calls at 3 o'clock in the morning from the sheriff. Could you come to the park? Because we've got this. So I focused my time on, let's build a building so we can store our stuff that's safe. And in the meantime, we started working that back and forth, and between Chris and management, we came up with, let's not do a storage building, let's do the whole project and go through the PIF. So that's when the $1 million PIF came through, and that included lights at that time. Well, inflation, everything, and the lights got cut. And so now we're in, because in my estimation, the building was only a $500,000 building maximum, but that continued to grow. So now we're at a state with inflation that's out of control. Labor costs are out of control, material costs are out of control, and so where does that put us? It put us at a budget that doesn't work. And at this point, the way I look at it, this is about doing the right thing. So we're kind of faced with what I call a probopportunity. We used to use that word in education because you had a problem and you had to come up, well, it made an opportunity. And we do have that probopportunity this morning. None of you are here. And most of the management that made decisions at that time were not here when this started. So we've been years in doing this, and it's always been a failure to launch. It's just not got started. So my point is, I think it's time to do the right thing, and you have the ability to do that. It comes down to the issue is a budget. So my whole point is, you didn't have control of inflation, you didn't have control of material costs, you didn't have control of all those things, but we do have control. We can tweak the budget, fix the budget, and do the right thing. That's all I ask for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Pearson.
Bill Pearson, 133438. Really quick, in 2018, I was on the Long Range Planning Committee. The softball club had been kicked to the Long Range Planning Committee to be put on the PIF budget to die. And I told them that, don't let it happen, because when I was sitting in the room on the Long Range Planning Committee, they said, we just had 6 break-ins and we have homeless living up in our upper loft. And I looked at the chair and the co-chair and I said, that, guys, is a safety and health issue. And you got to deal with it. Every employer I ever dealt with, when it came to safety and health of their employees, acted quickly. We acted slowly and said, just get on the budget and someday we'll get to it. Someday is today. Pass the motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, everyone who signed up has spoken on this motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion by the directors? Director Nichols.
Yes, a few things here, and quite frankly, I'll have to say that I believe the softball club was, shall we say, screwed over these last few years. Maybe if I offend anyone, I'm sorry. But there's a few things that I took the time to visit the field, and I hope some of the other directors have also. But that building was built in 1995, from what the records I've been able to resurrect. And it's probably one of the newest buildings in Sun City other than Fairway and those maintenance buildings that have been built in the recent history. There's a men's, there's a women's, and there's ADA accessible restrooms there. I'm looking at it is, and I hate to say that I'm trying to reinvent the wheel, but why hasn't a addition been considered for that building? The most expensive part of any kind of a construction is restrooms and the like. And so I'm looking at, I don't understand why an addition hasn't been considered. I know that there is a homeless problem down there. I've reported homeless people. In the announcers area, I think the homeless problem, and I hope the new plan has it, if it gets approved, has some sort of a gate or lock to get up to the new facility. It could be added. It could have been added years ago for probably I'll inflate the number, for less than $20,000. The other thing that is in this project that does bother me a little bit is the fact that there is a proposed batting cage, which is something unique to the softball club. Board Policy 10 is pretty specific and says that club expense or club items such as, well, I'll use some examples. The welding club, if they want to buy a new TIG cutter or whatever they call those things, that's a club expense. I know the car club has purchased a new lift for pickup trucks or heavier vehicles. That was a club expense. And the list can go on and on and on. And I really question why we are including some of these items in this plan. Other than that, I guess I've said but what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I see Mr. Whiprud has raised his hand.
Madam President, Board of Directors, Director Nichols, the batting cage is being purchased by the softball club. We're just putting in the infrastructure, much like when we built the vintage vehicle club, we put in the infrastructure for the lifts, which were supplied by the club. So in that essence, as for why wasn't the current structure considered as a remodel, I can't answer that, but the project as a new structure was already in the books years ago, and that's the direction that I took it. I think with all the added security and the things we have to do to build this and connect it to the storage building, it would have been fairly impractical to, add on to that current structure, which is like 600 square feet. And I think the new design, which has gone through a lot of comments from the club, operations, it's going to be secure, it's going to have security cameras, access control, some of the good things that we want to roll out at all the centers. So that's why it is where it is.
Thank you. Director Nichols.
Mike, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Is there adequate electricity in that building to accommodate an addition?
No.
There is not?
No.
Okay. And is there adequate electricity to accommodate security measures?
The current building? No. No. But in the new design, yes, absolutely.
You're telling me that what do we got, 20 amp service going in there or what?
It's pretty small. We're going to put in a 200 amp service in the new building.
Okay. I'm just
Thank you.
wanting questions answered.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments by the directors? Seeing none, Secretary Totten, please take the roll call vote.
Thank you, President Vimmel. Director Nichols?
I abstain.
Director Collins?
Yes.
Vice President McAdam?
Yes.
Director Ruff?
Yes.
Director Nowakowski?
Yes.
President Fimmel,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That's 6 yes, 1 abstention.
With 6 yes and 1 abstention, the motion passes its first reading. Director Collins.
Yes, Madam President. I would like to waive the second reading if, by a show of hands, the residents think that that would be okay.
Mr. Collins, I believe you're out of order. Did you want to make a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to waive the second reading.
There's a motion to waive the second reading. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second. I hear a second to the motion. Is there discussion about waiving the motion, the second reading, to waive the second reading of the motion? Director Nichols.
Yes, I think because of the amount, I think we ought to give the membership a chance to comment on it at a subsequent meeting. It's only going to be another 2-3 weeks because I think the meeting is coming up quickly. So I am opposed to the waiving of the second reading.
Your opposition is noted.
I have a question of Director Collins. Could you tell me why you feel that we need to waive the second reading? Because you know, as a rule, I'm opposed to waiving second readings.
I know that you are, and we have been at this point many, many times, and it just never seems to get done. And they keep coming, we keep getting back to right here where we are, and then we are stalled for some reason. And they've been waiting all this time. We have all the drawings done, the architectural, everything is ready to go, and they can break ground if we just give them the go-ahead.
So you're suggesting this is an administrative issue? Okay,
well,
thank you. Any other final comments? Secretary Totten, please read the roll call vote.
Thank you, President Fimmel. Vice President McAdam.
Yes.
Director Nowakowski.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Director Ruff.
Yes.
Director Nichols.
No.
President Fimmel.
Yes.
And I vote no. That's 5 affirmative and 2 no.
With a vote of 5-2, the motion passes and the second reading is waived.
Mr. Kopis, I think you should get with management, schedule your groundbreaking.
Director Collins, you're out of order. The next exchange meeting will be on November 6th at 9 a.m. The next board meeting will be on November 16th. Please note that date at 9 a.m. here in Sundial. The annual member meeting is scheduled for November 29th here in Sundial at 6 p.m. There being no further business.
Madam President?
Yes.
I would just like to thank the members, board members who voted yes for the committee. And now I'm looking out there to all of you. I need support for the Outreach and Communication Committee. I'd either see me after the meeting today or please send me an email. I would like to get this committee started as quickly as possible. Thank you.
There being no further business and without objection, this meeting is adjourned. Please remember to turn your electronic devices back on. Thank you.
This is a copy written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.